What is going on, guys? Rewinds here, and in this video I'm going to be bringing you guys pretty much the full spoilers for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Manga Chapter number 28. And I am a little bit later to this than I usually am. I'm still not like super late or anything like that, but I've been feeling a little under the weather lately, so I might sound a little bit different in this video, but that's pretty much why. But nonetheless, excited to talk about the chapter as usual, and let's see what we got in store for this month. I have seen some of the spoilers, but not every single thing. So I will discuss as we go. We should pretty much have the most of the panels to show here in this video. So shout out to Felix for all this stuff over here that I'm going to show in this video. And let's have a look. So first things first, Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 28's cover is a solo cover of Sumire, and she's holding that sword pretty close that she's probably, enhanced for Boruto. So we're probably going to get to see something about that, I'm assuming, in this chapter, just simply based off of the cover. But, cool cover, and cool to see Sumire get one. So, this is pages 1 through 4 of the chapter. Let's have a look at this. And if you're new to my channel, I kind of like skim these real quick because these pages usually are a little bit tougher with copyright with how Shueisha is. So if you see me skimming through, that's why. So page 1, seems like we got Inojin over here working on this new jutsu, and this is him actually putting it to use. Page 2, Kashin Koji's looking on. And then it says, well done. It's more or less taking shape. Inojin says, somehow, yeah. Boruto says, that's impressive. To think you really managed to master it in just one day. Inojin looks back, not so happy. And he says, hey, Boruto, let me make this clear. We go to page 3. He says, I am here solely for Konoha and for Himawari-chan. It's not that I've forgiven your act of treason, nor does it mean I've accepted you as a comrade. Boruto pretty much says, same here. It's not like I've accepted you either. And then he says, remember this well. If you ever make Himawari cry even once, I'll shave that stupid head of yours completely bald. And then Inojin says, huh? That's pretty funny. Boruto out here giving him a little threat. I don't know if Boruto's so approving of Inojin's interest in Himawari as of right now. But, he gives him a fair warning. And over here too, Inojin makes himself pretty clear as well. Another big thing over here for sure is that Boruto's impressed that Inojin managed to figure out this jutsu and master it within this one-day period. So it shows us, even from last chapter, that Inojin, wasn't just kind of talking out of his ass. He kept his word. So page 4, Inojin says, hey, wait, and Boruto pretty much just goes away, pretty much disappeared from there. Inojin says, why did he say something like that to me? Inojin says, I mean, who is he to say that? He's the one who wrecked the entire Uzumaki household in the first place. And Koji's just looking on. We, of course, as readers know, what the truth is, but, in his eyes, he's where Kawaki should really be based off of those actions. So, pages 5 through 8. Over here, we're back to this interrogation room. It looks like Mitsuki's made his way. Kubo says, you've come in. And he tells Konohamaru, you may now go, return to your duties. Konohamaru walks away. Sai is actually caught on to something, and he pretty much reaches out to the sensory unit and says, this is Yamanaka Sai, come in. And he says, I want to know the recent communication log involving Sarutobi, Konohamaru, and a third party, specifically the exchanges from the past few minutes. And the person responding to Sai says, understood. And Sai says his last transmission was the regular check-in last night. There's no usage record for the past few minutes. And Sai says, I see. Thank you. And Konohamaru's looking back, at him as if like he knows that they caught on, or like Sai might have caught on, but Konohamaru looks a little nervous right there, sweating. Kubo says, well then, Mitsuki, the child of the infamous Orochimaru. Kubo says, when Boruto escaped, you were the one closest to him. Taking the circumstances at that time into account, I have a few more questions for you, or I have a few questions for you. We leave from that scene to Boruto now, pretty much bringing out this sword. I'm assuming this is the new weapon. And yes, it is, because we have Sumire over here talking to him and saying the blade has been reshaped from its original material to a form that maximizes its strength and sharpness. So Boruto says the guard is the only part that's the same as before, but everything else has been almost completely redesigned. Sumire says that's not all. Boruto-kun's sword style, the Uchiha style Kenjutsu, Jinho, or blade cloak, once you grip the hilt and activate the technique, the blade itself is configured to automatically maintain the jutsu on its own. Wow, I think that's pretty damn convenient for Sumire to pull that off. That's actually some big stuff. And a little translation thing, it's not really called blade cloak, I guess it's called Hagoromo. It's a little translation right there by Felix on the bottom right there. Moving on to page 9 through 12. So the conversation here is continuing with Boruto and Sumire. Boruto actually activates the sword, if you see right there. Boruto says this thing, it's slight, but it's absorbing my chakra. Sumire says, yes, but don't worry. Because of that, you don't have to devote any concentration to maintaining the technique. Since the effect of Hagoromo continues on its own, it will stay active as long as your chakra holds out. Boruto says, so that's how it is. This is really good. Sumire says, but be careful. If someone whose chakra isn't registered touches the sword, it will drain their chakra heavily. So this is cool. This is specifically designed for Boruto then. And this is cool stuff. Really cool stuff. And Boruto says, what? And Sumire says it's a safety measure in case the enemy ever manages to take it. Sasuke-san and you are already registered, and for work purposes mine is registered as well. Boruto says, I see. So it's a scientific ninja tool with built-in safety mechanisms. Sumire says, and one more thing. This sword has a certain special material fused into it. And now we cut over to Shikadai and Shikamaru talking. This is pretty cool because we don't really get to see this too much. So I'm happy to see this, even though I don't know what they discussed yet in full. Shikamaru says, that's how it is. Shikadai says, a human divine tree attack? Shikamaru says, yeah. Before long, Konoha will become a battlefield. Based on the information I just told you, I intend to carry out the operation. Shikadai says, you mean you're doing it after bringing that bastard Boruto over to your side? Shikadai says, he's the criminal who killed the 7th. Since when did you forgive him? Can you really handle things as Hokage if that's how you treat someone like him? Shikamaru responds by saying, when I assumed this position, there was something I swore in my heart, that I would never bend my convictions, no matter the circumstances, just as the 7th did. That's why I'm doing the same now. I'm not yielding to pressure, nor am I compromising. Not at all. So this might be Shikamaru's attempt at trying to convince Shikadai over, his own son to his side as well. Back to this thing right here with Boruto and Sumire. This is cool with the safety mechanisms for this, because if someone ever steals his weapon, or let's say even if Momoshiki takes over, that's not really a registered chakra signature, so this could go very bad for Momoshiki in comparison. As a hypothetical at least, but that's what I'm thinking. So pages 13 to 16. Shikamaru says, to protect Konoha, I am following my own convictions and making the decisions I believe are necessary. When it comes to confronting the human divine trees, Boruto's cooperation is absolutely essential. If you can't accept that, that's fine. There's no need for you to take part in this operation. This isn't an order. But if that's the case, do not tell anyone what we have discussed just now. After that, you will decide for yourself. Shikadai says, no. On the contrary, give me an order. And he says, Himawari is joining too, right? That operation? She's the same as Sarada. She wants to help Boruto. She's such an idiot. She even became a ninja for that. Shikadai says, Chocho can't just leave someone like Himawari alone, and neither can I or Inojin. We're the same in that. Putting aside my personal feelings towards Boruto as a shinobi, I'll stake my life on the Hokage's orders. So, I guess for Shikadai, it's more of a principle thing. He can't stand Boruto. He doesn't want to work with him on his own free will right now. So, but he will do it if Shikamaru gives him that order as a Hokage. This is a cool, I feel like, character moment for Shikadai here to kind of stand his ground. I like this. And I want to say, really, Inojin has been getting pretty involved recently, and I like that. And now we're also seeing more showcase from Shikadai, and I feel like the anime already did a pretty damn good job on Shikadai in comparison to the other two, even though they would show Inojin and Chocho a good bit, and they didn't do bad with them either. But I like that they're showing these two more right now as we're going, and I'm sure we'll start seeing, a bit of Chocho more too. So Inojin says, but still, if you already know what's going to happen, couldn't you just explain it in more detail? Why do you only give us fragmented bits of information? Koji says, for example, even if you knew you were going to die, would you still have charged in to face Juro for Himawari's sake? Koji says, if you had known, you might have hesitated. Your legs might have frozen, and you might not have been able to move. As a result, if you had survived back then, would Himawari's power really have awakened? And this is a really good point by Koji over here. What I'm trying to say is this. The future I saw, the moment I tell it to someone, it will change, even if only a little. The more ideal the future outcome is, the more people are better off not knowing about it. And he's referencing Sarada's case here. Koji says, because even something you tell others with good intentions could become the trigger for events to develop in an unintended direction. Koji says, those who know the fragments of the future, in other words, we singularities, our awareness and actions often greatly influence the course of events that follow, for better or for worse. The more singularities there are, the more the future branches out into complex possibilities, making prediction extremely difficult. Prescience would completely lose its advantage. So, I'm glad he explained his ability to Inojin, and he gave good examples, for even anyone who's reading and wasn't completely understanding his ability. I think he did good at giving examples there. So, let's see, pages 17 to 20 now. And, Koji says, whom to tell what and how much to advance toward the ideal future. Those decisions must always be made with great caution. So then Inojin says, so you're deliberately not telling us much, which means, in other words, if we just go with the flow of how things as they are, it's likely to turn in a good direction. Is that basically right for now? Koji says, whether your own choices were right or wrong, you won't know until you see the outcome. Koji says, I believe I've conveyed all the necessary information. As for how to fight the enemy now before us, I have no choice but to leave that decision to Shikamaru and Boruto. So Koji feels like he's played his role, but now the outcome of all this is going to be more in Boruto and Shikamaru's hands. We then see perhaps a glimpse into the future of it looks like Ada got turned into a tree, or pretty much into that devoured state, as Mamushi is aiming to do. And we have a future where we're seeing Inojin hugging the body of a potential dead Himawari here. So this is some pretty crazy stuff that Koji's seen. Koji says, let's change it at the very least. A future where Ada or Himawari dies. So right now, Koji might be seeing those two still happening. And that could be a big disadvantage, because Himawari definitely has a lot of potential to get stronger. And I'm sure Koji sees that Himawari can play a big role down the line here. And Ada, of course, just with her ability in itself to be able to see stuff to the degree she can, that would be a big blow for them too, to lose her. So now, Inojin, he just listened on. Now we have a transmission. Can you hear me? This is Shikamaru. First, let me make this clear. This transmission will not be recorded. It's an unofficial one. Therefore, only those who are hearing my voice right now, and the people hearing his voice are Sarada, Ada, Damon, Chocho, Himawari, Shikadai, Konohamaru, Mitsuki, and Delta. That's who we have right now listening. So, page 21, we have Kawaki listening as well, and Amado too. Will be considered members of this operation. Boruto and Sumire as well. The main selection criteria are twofold. The first is this: someone who is not hostile towards Boruto, at least in this battle. And right then, we're seeing Sarada's reaction. We're seeing Kawaki. It's funny, that Kawaki's face was included in that. That's why Shikamaru had to say this battle. The next one, Konoha still continues to view Boruto as an enemy and as a target for elimination. During the operation, we can also expect actions that will interfere with his movements. Each member must support Boruto's movements inside the village. Inside the village, while remaining alert to enemy threats. Second, regarding this transmission I mentioned earlier, it is a dedicated communication line created through Yamanaka Inojin's new jutsu, Shindinjin, or mind transmission. So, this is pretty much what Inojin has done overall, where he's been able to connect everybody unofficially and multiple people at the same time, it looks like. Let's see if they talk more about it, but it's, creating this communication line that's completely different with multiple people at once, and no one else can probably sense it, I'm assuming. So, we get this little bit of a view of what's going on right there, thanks to, the jutsu, and, we're seeing, the view as well from, Koji's frog. Shikamaru says the enemy is the human divine tree Mamushi. It's a monster that splits into multiple bodies. On top of that, it seems like he can erase his own chakra signature, so the village's chakra detection network can't track him. That's why Inojin's new jutsu, Shindinjin, is essential. So, Inojin's jutsu, it sounds like, is going to be able to track Mamushi as well, whereas, the regular sensory unit cannot. Inojin says, the part where we can talk remotely is the same as the usual mind transmission. What's different is that through this communication link, each connected person acts as like a receiver and can detect the vibrations of objects in their surroundings. So Sumire says vibrations. And what's being said is every object, living or not, emits its own unique vibration frequency. Since chakra sensing can't locate Mamushi, we're going to pinpoint and track its location by identifying its vibrational frequency. And then I think this is Chocho or Himawari saying, so what does that mean? But this is a cool ability because we're seeing, a different way of detection over here, and it can only happen through Inojin. So cool stuff there. So something else I do want to mention is that we actually didn't get the full chapter this month. Overall, we're going to make it to page 33, and the leakers decided to leave the last 7 pages more so as a surprise. So we don't have the pages for those, but there is, I guess, other little tidbits we can go over after the first 33. But for now, let's keep running through what we got left, these last 9 pages. So, Shikamaru says there's no need to overthink it. Inojin and I will detect the enemy's numbers and positions and then relay that information to you. That's all. However, the number of people who can communicate simultaneously through Shindinjin is not very large. And this is the second reason for selecting the current members. Inojin, when did he learn a jutsu like that? Shikadai says. Shikamaru saying the preface got a bit long, but from here on I'll explain Mamushi's abilities, the countermeasures, and the concrete details of the operation. So we get a little view of Inojin over here, and it seems like Inojin has detected something. We're at a random part of the village where 2 guys are kind of just chilling, maybe talking to each other, and then Mamushi pulls up and says, "Hey brother, that woman Ada, where is she?" And Inojin alerts Shikamaru immediately by saying, "8th Hokage, it's him. Mamushi is already inside the village." And Shikamaru says, yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Calm down, Inojin. Focus on the jutsu. The enemy is in Area C. There are 8 of them spaced about 30 meters apart. So 8 of them already right now in this Area C. Koji says, Boruto, the nearest shape is keyhole. Boruto says, understood. So Boruto, kind of transmits himself by using that, and one of Koji's frogs is holding the keyhole. So Boruto's making his way to that scene. This is where some action looks like it's going to kick off. And it's crazy how quick of a turnaround we had. It was only a day, and Mamushi already made it, and that's thanks to the little events changing. Thanks to Koji, actually informing them as pretty much like a butterfly effect. So Boruto's lunging in. Shikamaru says, damn it, it's several days earlier than I heard. Koji says, that's how it is. Fate has already begun to change. Inojin, just listen in. Kawaki says something. He says, just you wait, you bastards. And this is pretty much that sneak peek page we had that I covered a couple days ago. Ada says, ugh, this is way too gross. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Damon says, don't worry. I won't let that thing lay a single finger on you, sis. Sarada says, aye, for now I'm going. Shikamaru says, wait, Sarada. Given the nature of its ability, there's a possibility that the split-off Mamushis will scatter over a wide area. Team 10 head to the eastern part of District D. Team 7 hold position for now in the northern part of District B. So Boruto's covering maybe that Area C, whereas Team 7's in District B, and Team 10 is going to hold down District D. So everyone might get their own little battle at some point. Shikamaru says, Mitsuki, what's the situation on your end? Mitsuki says, it doesn't look like I'll be released anytime soon. Should I force my way through? This is funny. Mitsuki's basically ready to throw hands right now to get out of this. But Shikamaru says, we don't want that to provoke them carelessly. He says, wait for the right moment. If you're going to make a move, do it by taking advantage of the confusion in the village. We'll also think of a countermeasure on our side. Mitsuki says, understood. Shikamaru says, listen, the insect's target is Ada. In the end, it will head to the eastern part of Area A where she is. All units be ready to move at any moment. Boruto will use the flying Raijin to jump to each location. So Boruto's going to be jumping around here. And Kawaki will provide support according to the situation. Ada's location, you say? We're the ones who'd like to know that. What kind of perverted old man are you, bastard? Let's see. And we got another one that says, comrade. Kill them if you want, but don't go destroying the buildings. I don't want Jura chewing me out for that. So Jura cares more about this village infrastructure, it looks like, rather than killing a few people off. These guys are saying, huh? It's the same old man. A clone? If you don't know, then you're useless to me. Sorry for getting in your way, brother. And then he says, wait, you. Hold on. What are you? And that's the end of page 32. We do have page 33 here, where, Mamushi might have done something, but he's walking away. Maybe he wasn't going to kill them, but you never know. Boruto makes a cool landing, aura farming as usual. Pulls out his sword and deals like a big slash over here to Mamushi. So, yeah, that's pretty much what we have right now. It seems like these last couple pages are going to be very action heavy. Maybe that's why we didn't get them leaked. But this is the panel we have that, we stop at. But we do have a little bit more tidbits coming up. And this was sneak peek number 2. And this was actually something not included in those first 33 pages as well that I just covered. So this is one of the other ones. Boruto actually gets attacked perhaps by the other Mamushi. And he pretty much gets hit towards a wall. He does get his... he tries to stop himself by using one of his hands. Stop that momentum. But he does take that hit. So... shows you that, Mamushi is pretty powerful. Even though Boruto caught one off guard, the other one, is still strong enough to get Boruto, at least, or deal Boruto a blow here, I should say. Also, take this with a grain of salt, but we do have a leaker who's usually reliable, and his name is Rai. Some of you may know him, some of you may not, but he claims that Boruto uses karma at the end of the chapter, and that's what I'm assuming is probably the cliffhanger. And news for next month, the next chapter will be officially released on the 19th of December in Japan. So it should be available on the 18th for other countries. So it should be one of those cases where we should be getting an early chapter for next month. So that should be some cool stuff. And let's see. Oh, it looks like it just came out. That's pretty cool. I did not know that, but now I know. Mamushi says karma. Boruto says, yeah, I just can't get used to it. That itchy, irritating feeling when you get when you absorb chakra. So, Boruto's activated karma. This is some crazy stuff because we have not seen Boruto like this. This is going to be some pretty hype stuff to lead on to chapter 29 to end off the year. The side over here says the power you have gained is a double-edged sword. Give up everything, devote your life, and burn your very soul to defeat the divine tree. And that's pretty much where we end off. Let me check real quick if anything else popped up because this is pretty recent, but this might be it. Yeah, so that should be pretty much be it, but at least we got the last page actually officially dropped now too, thanks to the leakers, and that's pretty much going to sum up this month's stuff. Hopefully you guys did enjoy what we have in store for this chapter. I'm excited to talk about it in my review, but overall I like what we saw. I was expecting us to go straight into the action just based off of Mamushi pulling up last chapter, but I like the way things flowed in this month's chapter, you know, the build up of the plan and just stuff happening early. So good first impression of it, and I like that we're ending on a note where the operation's begun and Mamushi's been confronted at least by Boruto. So I'm sure there's exciting stuff to come, but that's gonna wrap up this video. Let me know what you think of everything in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys have a good day or night whenever you guys are watching this video. Rewinds, and I'm out.